Tired of a noisy slider in your CX-12? Want it to sound more like this? Well then, this is the video for you. So these are the two parts that we want to modify. It's the slider and it is the comb. And first thing to do with the slider is to actually remove the spring. And we do that by just pulling it out. And just discard that spring. That's one of the parts that makes it noisy. Also make sure that you have this damper in here and that you have this white little damper in there, because they are the ones dampening the slider when it reaches the end spots. Next up, we want to install a new spring. And this spring comes from the Hohner Meisterklasse chromatic. And we want this to be fitted in here, kind of like that. And for this we need to make a hole, a slot here in the front of the comb. And we can do that pretty easily with just a normal handheld drilling machine. So we need a measuring caliper. And then we measure the depth of the inside there to the edge there, which is about 7.45 millimeter. We want to drill a hole in there which is 2 millimeter in diameter. So we want to reduce this number 7.45 by 1 millimeter. So we want this to be 6.45. So 6.46, I'd say that's good enough. Then we take the comb and we take the calipers, and then we can just make sure that one of the jaws of the calipers rests against the top of the comb, and then just we drag a line like so. And now we want to take a drill, 2 millimeter, and we want to drill a hole through there. We want to put the drill on the line, and we want it to come out on this side, on the left side of this hole. We don't want to go through the hole or into this chamber. We have to be careful with that. So just finding that line right around there, and if you push the drill bit a little bit, it makes like a tiny indentation. And if we look at that, let's see, I'd say that we're too far to the right. So we'll step off a little bit more to the left, right around there. And then we just drill a hole. And this is ABS plastic, so it's pretty soft. And hopefully we will have a, oh yes, a drill coming through. Like so. And you can see it made a tiny mark in the bottom of the comb there. And that's perfect, because then we know that the hole, the bottom of the hole is at the bottom of the comb. And then we can do a similar hole in the other end. And then we can drill a couple of more holes in the middle, as many as you can fit in there. I think we could fit about 4 of them in total. So it looks something like that. They're not exactly on the line, but it doesn't really matter in the end. Now what we want to do, we want to enlarge these ones so we get a slot in there. We can do this in various ways. We can have like an X-Acto knife or a scalpel or something like that, and we can just something sharp, pointy, knifey. Just get rid of that, a little bit of the excess material. Oh. something like so. Then we want to use a file, like a needle file, like this. That should fit pretty snugly in there. And then just file it a little bit bigger, taking the other end of it. Normally I would do this on the milling machine, but most people don't have a milling machine, so that's why I'm showcasing it in this way. Something like that. That's pretty good. If you do it on a milling machine, it would look like something like this. Then we can take our spring and we can insert it here and make sure that the long part of the spring goes against this direction of the comb, against towards the smaller holes. And the smaller part of the spring here, we can use a pair of pliers. Just fold in that part. It should look something like that. You see this hole here. We can align the hole for the spring that we're going to drill now with this hole. So it's basically in the same line as this hole and in the center, like between that hole and this edge. So in the center, right around there. You can see then this sticks out just ever so slightly. So we'll remove this again. Out we go. Take our 2mm drill bit. Find the center spot. I'd say it's right around there. Something like so. Easy peasy. So you will need a M2 screw. Length doesn't really matter, as we can cut it shorter as long as it's like what, 10mm long ish. And then you would need one of these brass inserts. They are very easy to find on like eBay or AliExpress or something like that. This one is also M2 and it has an M2 thread in it, of course. So we put these two together like so, and then we take a pair of cutters and we chop off a top part of this, and we leave maybe about 3mm sticking out of that. We just take a file to round off the edges. I used a stainless steel screw here, so it's pretty hard stuff, but you can use a brass screw as well. Then we take a screwdriver and just untighten this. We put the screw, the slot is in the top half of the comb. We put the screw from underneath like so, and here it's important to make sure that the screw doesn't go higher up than the surface of the comb. And it actually does that in this case. So we have to file off ever so slightly more from it. Otherwise the reed plate won't lay flat against the comb, as it will be touching the screw. And that looks pretty good. You can't see it from the side, which means that it's not going above the surface. You take your threaded insert, just put it on top of the screw, and then just tighten it up. That should look something like that from this side, and something like this from the other side. So now what we do is we simply take the spring and we can just check it. We put it through there on top of this post that we now created. Take a pair of pliers and we fold in the spring. And there we go. There is our spring. And you can see it sticks out from the comb just enough to catch the slider. So that's perfect. Now what we want to do is we want to flat sand the front part of the comb. because that is also something causing a bit of noise when this surface is unflat, and it also causes air leakage. So let's head over to a sanding station.